What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadski, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. And today we're actually pivoting away from the anniversary units, and we're having a look at Alber. Now, I have made a dedicated video for this SugoFest exclusive when he eventually came out. It was like a couple months back at this time, and I did test it without having him as my own captain, and I had him used as a friend captain and stuff. But I really wanted to go ahead and jump into content using him as a captain, because when he first dropped, I was just dumbfounded at how amazing this guy was. And I guess when you really look at him like in a vacuum just by himself, he's pretty unremarkable, I would say. But it's once you take into context versus Kaido and his abilities with Alber, combining those two together, the abilities that these characters have in combo, in tandem with each other, are just absurdly strong. So let's actually break down, like, why is this combo so good? So the good thing about Alber, right, is that when you set him as your captain, he gives buffs to both Slasher and Driven. Now, if you want to be using the God combo with Kaido, with, you know, obviously that's Luffy versus Kaido, then you want to be running a full Driven team. Kaido gets benefits when you run a full team of Driven. I believe Alber also has benefits if you have at least 5 or more Driven characters on the squad. So you want to basically make sure that you're running predominantly Driven. But the big thing as to why you would even go out of your way to use Alber as your captain is that he removes 10 turns of Bind and Despair anytime you're inflicted with that. So just being able to just ignore 2 debuffs completely by 10 turns is so good. You just don't have to worry about those 2 debuffs at all. Like, very rare circumstances, you're inflicted with more than 10 turns of those debuffs at any given time. And even if you are inflicted with more of it, it's not that big of a deal, because you could use plenty of supports or specials that can just deal like another extra handful of turns, which is not really that bad at all. In 99% of cases, you're just going to completely ignore that. And now, when you take into context what Kaido does, Kaido's captain ability, on top of like a lot of other beneficial effects, his utility gives you 10 turn removal of paralysis and special reverse. So with this God combo, we're running a full Driven team, you're ignoring 10 turns of Bind, Despair, special reverse, and paralysis. Like, what? Like, at this stage here against the Ivankov, you're normally inflicted with Bind and Despair, and then you're inflicted with special reverse. We just ignore all of that, and we don't even care. It's so freaking strong. And then it goes even further than that when you have a look at what Alber does as a special. So Alber's special does set defense to 0 to all enemies. So, you know, obviously, you know, reducing their defense to 0 is a cool ability, but it doesn't go through full immunity. Kaido, when you use him as a captain, has an ability that says if you've got a full team of Driven and you have a character that performs an effect that inflicts a debuff on the opponent, it actually will just straight up go through immunity. So it makes Alber's ability of defense reduction go through immunity. It will also inflict ignited status when you activate Alber's special, so the enemy is inflicted with a burn debuff. It then removes 7 turns of your cruise burn, as well as removing enemy resilience by 7 turns. It gives you a 30% resistance down against all types, so just inflicting more debuffs is great. And then it says, if you have 5 or more Slashers on the team, then you boost Slasher and Driven characters' advantageous class effect, which is pretty redundant in most content. There are going to be use cases for this, but most of the time that's kind of whatever. But then if you have a full team or 5 Driven characters on your team, then Alber's special applies a weakness debuff, which is a 1.5 times increased damage taken, and then if you've got increased damage taken on the enemy, then it's multiplied by a further 1.3. Let me get up the calculator real quick to get the actual value of this. So 1.5 multiplied by 1.3, so it's essentially almost a 2 times bonus damage if you have his weakness debuff. Again, a little bit of a debuff is the fact that it doesn't go through full immunity. But once again, if you have Kaido as your other captain and you've got your full Driven squad, then the weakness debuff from Alber will allow it to go through full immunity. So again, just really great combo here. And I guess Kaido is kind of like the glue that really holds it all together. Alber has just great abilities overall, but it's the fact that, you know, Kaido just kind of carries and he kind of just like keeps it all together and concise. So that's a really big benefit by using Kaido. Kaido, by the way, also has an ability to inflict increased damage taken to the opponent. It's a 2.25 times multiplier, and that does go through full immunity. So great synergy there with Alber, as Alber applies a weakness, and then you can have Kaido giving you that increased damage taken. Kaido, by the way, also does remove like up to 10 turns of Rainbow Shield and damage threshold. And then when you counter in the fact that you've got Alber that sets defense to 0 that can go through immunity, it essentially means that when you activate Kaido and Alber together, you're essentially removing all defensive effects off of your opponent. It doesn't remove barrier and it doesn't remove damage immunity per se, but it removes those key ones of damage threshold, increased defense, and also Rainbow Shield, which you absolutely love to see. And obviously Kaido gives really good orb change, he gives you that attack boost, and then of course you have Alber, who has all of his grand effects. Kaido and Alber also synergize in terms of their potential abilities in a way. One thing, I guess, that is a real big detriment if you do opt to use Kaido is that he does have a super tandem, but in order to trigger the super tandem, you have to tap with like 4 or 5 characters, which is honestly really bad. So that's like the only real downside, is the fact that you have to tap with so many characters. But then you do have Alber, and Alber's final tap is surprisingly very good, which allows you to give himself a Wano slot when he taps with his final tap, and it also adds 0.5 times the damage dealt by your normal attacks of your other characters this turn on top of your tap timing bonus, as well as increasing the multiplier of the Wano slot that Alber receives. So essentially, if you tap with your 5 other characters and you do, let's say, 10 billion damage, then his final tap will essentially add half of that damage on top of Alber's damage. So if you do, 10 billion damage and then Alber performs his final tap, then it basically adds 5 billion damage on top of Alber's damage, which is incredibly strong. The cool thing about the final tap as well is that final tap actually bypasses enemies' resilience. So if the enemy does have resilience and you're doing like a ton of damage against them, even if you have the base level, like level 1 of Alber's final tap, being able to have that just to enable your team to essentially bypass resilience is pretty dope. Of course, there is the issue with the fact that you can only perform it on the final stage, but it's still a pretty cool effect, and the condition isn't too harsh. You just need 4 or more slashes or driven characters, and then you also have to use the special ability on the final stage. I suppose that's also kind of a downside, but all things considered, this combination of using Kaido and Alber together is just phenomenal, and at the moment is the current best driven setup. And I guess it's going to be interesting because as of the release of this video, the next news time that comes around, we will get information on Saint Saturn in One Piece Treasure Cruise, and a lot of people are predicting, whether he's going to be cerebral, he could be powerhouse, he could be driven focused, and if he is going to be more driven support, then it's just going to add extra credence to this combination of Alber and Kaido, and we'll have to wait and see, but I'm looking forward to seeing some big stuff from him. Let me know your thoughts and opinions about Alber and Kaido down below in the comment section. If you guys have had a chance to use this combo, I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions about it, because it's been a bunch of fun. Really, really cool unit, and hope to use them more in the future, honestly. So hopefully you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.
Eternal!